So you've worked with a number of marquee brand companies on helping them to create a desirable culture. Toyota, Subway sandwiches, Caterpillar, Summer Moon Coffee, Microsoft, Costco. So let's get into what it takes to build a high-performing culture.
Yeah, Leah, it took us 47 years. This book took 47 years to research and a year to write. But what we learned in 47 years in serving companies like Toyota and Microsoft and Costco and Caterpillar is everybody talks about company culture, but what's really driving company culture is the people culture, and that everybody has a personal culture. If you even Google the definition of corporate culture, you're going to get two definitions, one from Harvard, one from Cambridge in England. You put them together, it's the beliefs that govern how people behave individually. And then corporate doesn't just mean companies. Corporate, you don't have corporate worship in a church. It's a collective team. So it's the beliefs that govern how people believe individually and then collectively as a team. And the trouble with beliefs is 95% of them are subconscious. We don't know what we believe. The International Masterson Institute will tell you that the human brain processes 11 million bits of information a second. How's that for you AI guys? 11 million bits a second, but only 40 of it are conscious or we're aware of. So all of us have these hidden beliefs that most of them came from childhood, especially, and every child had some kind of trauma, even if you had a great life and you weren't abused, but you got bullied in the second grade like I did. We develop beliefs that get packed down and then they go with us for the rest of our lives. So we don't know what they are, and they control 95% of our performance. So that's what culture really is. It's these hidden beliefs that we don't know we have that govern how we do everything. What we see, what we don't see, the opportunities we see, the drive, the energy, the motivation we have when we get down, when we get upset, when we're depressed, all beliefs.
Well, thank you for setting the stage with that. It helps with the context and the definition, of course. So when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that culture is described often as the foundation of success across organizations, teams, even nations. So from your perspective, why does culture play such a critical and far-reaching role?
Well, it's critical because it's everything. Think about it for a second. When you get to chapter 7, you're going to see research from one of our partners, Dr. Terry S. Smith. Dr. Smith has been a licensed practicing therapist for 53 years. He's 83 years old. And what he's learned in serving tens of thousands of people all over the world is that every child between birth and 12 years old goes through some kind of emotional trauma. And at that time, sometimes they were abused, sometimes they had a great life. He's served everything from women who were sex trafficked in India to CEOs to PTSD survivors, all of humanity. And as the child develops a belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not the right color, I'm not the right, tens of thousands of people, there's 25 core beliefs, and all of them lies that limit our effectiveness and limit our performance. I didn't find mine until I was 30 years into a career. And just finding it is one thing, but turning it around is another. So yeah, it's all driven by beliefs that we have that we don't know we have.
So, despite it's important, it can be difficult to define and even harder to manage, although you set us off right with the definition. But why do you think organizations struggle to effectively understand and shape their culture?
Well, because it's subconscious. Unless you have the good news is there are scientific tools now that you can measure it. But the biggest problem is the lies that companies believe. The number one lie that companies believe is if we have a successful business, we have an excellent culture. If we're making a lot of money, we have an excellent culture. Not true. Only 95% of successful businesses don't have excellent culture. So less than 10% have excellent cultures. What does that tell us? The most successful companies are underperforming, but if you believe because you're successful, you have an excellent culture, you don't look deep enough and you don't see it, you don't recognize it. And if you don't have the tools to measure it, you're stuck.
Fair point. So in your experience, what are some of those common cultural pitfalls that organizations fall into? And then what are some of those strategic steps that leaders can take to course correct that? Well,
when you look at the science behind it, there's there's a dozen different behavioral styles that make up the culture of a team or an organization or a company or a human being. 4 of them are what are called constructive styles. They're proactive, achievement, people setting and achieving goals. Self-actualization, being all that you can be, continuously improving. Humanistic, encouraging, respect for people. And then what the scientists call affiliative, which is team unity. And again, these are belief systems that get developed over time. And when you work in a team or a company or an organization or a department, we share thoughts, we communicate, and then these trends develop that we don't realize are there. And then you've got the aggressive defensive beliefs like competition, beautiful big belief. But does your company, does your organization, or do you as a human being, do you have the competition belief of the NFL team in the preseason where everybody's stabbing each other in the back to get the coach's attention? Or are you the NFL team in the postseason where everybody's pulling together to compete against those guys? And we don't realize it, we know this, we don't realize it's happening.
So I guess that being said, you know, a lot of organizations, they believe that they do have a strong culture, but that's really not always the case. I think we can attest to that. So what are some indicators or signals that leaders should look for to determine whether their culture is truly healthy, strong, and effective?
Probably the best one is when you're doing really, really well. Our best clients are organizations that are at the top of their game that want to get better. The folks that are really struggling are too busy surviving that they don't have time to pay attention to it. So, you know, years ago we did a lot of work for this little retail operation called Nordstrom's when they were a shoe store in Seattle and they were moving into, you know, a global, you know, retail giant. And interacting, became really good friends with one of their CEOs. A family member married, you know, the founding Nordstrom's daughter. The worst thing that ever happened in Nordstrom, believe it or not, was in the 80s, there was an author by the name of Tom Peters wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. And Nordstrom was highlighted as the gold standard of customer service. It became everything. And I mean, it affected the whole world. Anybody that was doing anything for customers. Well, the worst thing, according to Jack McMillan, the CEO, that ever happened in Nordstrom's was that book. Because everybody in Nordstrom's accepted the belief that we're the best that there is, and they went into the worst slump that they've ever had in the history of their industry.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because when you believe that you're great, you can't see opportunities to get better. Your mind is blinded from it.
Yeah,
That's just one example.
Makes sense. I remember Nordstrom could take anything for a return at the time. So when building a strong culture, it's not a one-time initiative. Or is it a ongoing discipline that requires continuous attention refinement? Can you tell me a little more about
it's a forever project. I mean, transforming a culture, you know, is a process, and we've seen them happen in less than a year. But the key is to sustain it once you transform it. So it's a process of, you know, having the right tools and constantly measuring it. We're not talking about engagement surveys because you can have the most engaged workforce on the planet and go out of business while everybody's singing kumbaya. If you're not effective, you're not productive, you can be very engaged. But the right tools, you know, to measure, to assess, and to equip people to identify these hidden beliefs and hidden practices that are happening and transform them, you know, turn them around from what they are to what they really could be.
And that's just it. You have a process that you walk through.
And it took us 47 years to figure it out. A lot of mistakes, a lot of doing it wrong.
But that's how many of us learn, right? So your website highlights a lot of compelling transformation stories with very measurable results. Do these outcomes in this process, do they translate across all organizations? Or are there specific conditions or leadership traits that drive successful cultural change?
Yeah, the interesting thing about it is that the science it's done. You don't need to figure it out anymore. It's across humanity. And we have data from every civilized nation on the planet. And it's really interesting that when you ask the question to every worker in every company in every civilized nation on the planet, what's the ideal culture that you want to have and work in where you are? It's those 4 constructive styles. We want to be an environment we can set and achieve goals. We want to achieve our potential. We want to be all that we can be. We want to have a team that has our back, that cares about us. And we want to be unified and pulling together all over the world. Doesn't make any difference if you're from India or China or South America or North America or Germany. Same. The question though is, how do we get there from wherever we are? And that takes process and effort. And you all have a copy of the book. If you didn't get one already, please come get one, because it will give you the basics. And most importantly, it will give you the tools as a personal culture to assess your own culture as an individual. And if you'll just go through the book and answer the questions at the end of each chapter in writing, you want to write it down because writing's critical. And then act on them. You're going to find some things that will just flat out double your performance, and they're things that you never knew that you knew. Some of them you thought you knew, but it's packed inside. Until we get them out and start addressing them, it's hard to change.
Sounds like there's some good interaction with the book in that sense, which is nice. And I think we all look for that, right? People, culture first out of anything when we go to a company. So Steve, for leaders who are really genuinely committed to cultivating an exceptional culture, where should they begin? And what foundational practices would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first question that we ask every leadership team, every group, every organization, every company, whether it's our smallest corporate client is a commercial real estate firm with 8 employees that 7 months into our process, 30 folded their bottom line. Our largest is Toyota. We've served them for 35 years. But the ideal question is, if you could create a culture that was so exciting that everybody woke up 2 hours early every morning, could hardly wait to get to work. And we want that defined not just with words, but with data. It's amazing that when you look at the data profiles, the words are all different, but when you look at the data profiles, they're almost identical. And we've had General Motors plants with United Auto Workers that fired a bullet through the VP of HR for Caterpillar at midnight. And, workers that hated bosses that in 20 months, when asked the question, what's the culture you want to leave to your children as a legacy in Saginaw, Michigan, they found out what they wanted was the same thing, and they put $5.5 million on their bottom line in scrap reduction in 20 months. So it's that key. And then again, once you know what it is, you've got to be able to measure it, because just conversation is too squishy. It's like putting your arms around Jell-O. Measure those belief systems, and then it's about what do we need to do to get there.
Here's a money question I'm sneaking in for you. Do you wake up 2 hours early with excitement, ready to go to work?
I work on it every day. I work on it every day.
7 days a week?
Yeah, it's 7 days a week. And you'll find that in the book, there's a QR code in chapter 2 that you can download our mobile app, whether you're Android or iPhone. If you're serious about this, it's free. You don't have to pay extra for it. Download the mobile app and take advantage of it, because it will give you a framework, a series of audio podcasts that are 5 to 7 minutes long that you can listen to while you drive, while you work, while you exercise. And then a system that connects your values, whatever they are, with goals that you want to set, and uses AI to create specific statements that you can use to program your personal culture in a way that moves you from where you are. In the book, QR codes, free. You don't have to pay extra for it. And thank Robin, because she paid for the books. And she deserves the kudos. She bought one for everybody here.
And I think the number one thing every organization has got that yet.
And I think this room, we all love frameworks, right? So that's wonderful to hear. So since culture, it often exists beneath the surface and can be difficult to accurately assess, how can leaders uncover the true state of their organization's culture and really avoid being misled by those assumptions?
Yeah, that's another great question. Something else that's free, we give it away. If you just go to our website, excellentcultures.com, and scroll down, there's a line break bar across it. It's called a business culture MRI. That in 10 minutes, you can answer online 10 questions. It's going to ask you, their culture, remember, it's the beliefs that govern how you behave. What do your people believe about accountability? What do they believe about their ability to do their jobs? What do they believe about leadership? All of these 10 key core beliefs, you answer them twice. Once for desire, this is how I want it. Once for actual, this is how it is. 10 minutes. You're going to get a data profile that will measure the culture that you have against our database of the best in the world, and as well as your vision. And again, it's free, it doesn't cost extra. It's right there on the website, excellentcultures.com, or you can do /culture MRI and get free access to it.
Culture MRI, I like that. Now, wrapping up here, if leaders here want to really change the culture on their team directly, and it may not map to the current culture of the company, can that be done, and what would you say is guidance there?
Yeah, great question. We have a proven process that works 100% of the time with 3 caveats. For any company of any size, always works, scientifically sound, done it for 47 years. The caveats are, number 1, you've got to have a leader, and the leader can be the CEO or the founder if it's a small business, or it could be a division of a Fortune 5, and we serve both. Number 1, you've got to have a leader who is willing to lead by example, meaning I would never ask you guys to do something I'm not willing to do myself. I want to do my own personal culture profile as a leader and look at it and see how I can improve. That's number 1. If the boss is so egotistical that they think it's for everybody else, don't waste your time messing with us, because it's not going to work. Secondly, you've got to have a next level, your next level leadership or executive team, once they do a formal assessment, have got to be willing to put skin in the game. Change how I think, change how I act, change how I communicate once I learn how. And then step 3 is simple, then you just follow the plan. Always works, produces triple to quadruple digit ROIs. Smallest ROI for a company was a commercial real estate firm in Seattle, Everett, Washington, 220% in 20 months. Record was, if you watch Ice Road Truckers, everybody watch Ice Road Truckers, Linden Transport, Alaska Trucking Company, 1,750% in 12 months. And the reason it was so high, because the culture that they discovered was actually causing their best drivers and dock hands to go work for their competitors instead of sticking around. You know, they changed it in 12 months and it put $3.7 million in cost savings on the bottom line.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, but it works for everybody if you've got those 2 caveats. You know, this is not, you gotta have a boss that wants to lead by example, humble enough to lead by example, and then a leadership team that will put skin in the game and go to work and improve it themselves, once they learn.
Thank you, Steve. And as we wrap up, you know, I think every one of us in this room, at some point, we do have retirement on our agenda, right? Whether that's in a year or 10 years or 15 or what have you. But talk a little bit about it, because I know it's a passion of yours, and I love what you're doing there. But some of what you're doing to prepare kind of the next set of leaders and generation of working with universities.
Yeah, Israel, who's my youngest son, there he is in the back of the room, leads our Ignite Young Leaders division, which basically is equipping the next generation of leaders with content we learned delivering to corporate America over 47 years. And, you know, Dallas Baptist University's MBA program and the Turning Point Academy and others, you know, are utilizing our tools that we didn't even know were for young leaders. We thought they were for corporate leaders, but to really equip the next young generation of leaders. And if you're thinking about retirement, my advice is read the book first and then don't. You know, don't. Because if you're an overachiever, and if you aren't, you wouldn't be here, okay? You know, you'll see all through the book, the tagline is rocket fuel for overachievers. Overachievers who retire, according to the insurance actuaries, I mean, high-performing people who retire, they live, the average is 18 months. I mean, overachievers are purpose-driven. So it doesn't make any difference how old you are. You know, go find something that's fun and engaging and passionate and challenging, and you will live a lot longer, and it's all in the book.
Come on.
I love that. That's advice for us tonight, right? How to extend our lives and longevity.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. It's a blast, and if you didn't get the book, happy to sign one for you. This is not a book that you just read. To get the most out of it, you want to work the process. You want to download the mobile app. You want to answer the questions in writing at the end of each chapter and then take action on them, and you'll be amazed at the transformation you just have with yourself, let alone your teams and your organization. Yeah, thank you, Robin. Yeah, give Robin a hand for buying the book. She bought one for everybody.